It was a cool October night, the kind where the wind whispers secrets through the trees and the shadows seem to stretch a little farther than usual. 5 of us, best friends since childhood, had gathered at my friend Mia's house for a long overdue sleepover. Her house was old, the kind of old where the floorboards creaked with every step, and the walls seemed to breathe with you. Her parents were out of town for the weekend, leaving us with the entire place to ourselves. We'd started the night with movies and junk food, but as the hours dragged into the early morning, someone suggested telling scary stories. It was Mia who brought up the idea of using an old Ouija board she'd found in the attic a few weeks ago. None of us really believed in that stuff, but the thought of trying it out gave us a thrill. The board was dusty, its letters faded, and the planchette felt strangely cold in our hands. We gathered in a circle on the living room floor, turning off all the lights except for a single candle in the center. The room instantly felt colder, and for a moment, no one spoke. Finally, Mia broke the silence, asking the first question with a laugh that sounded forced. "Is anyone here with us?" At first, nothing happened. The planchette sat still, and we all exchanged nervous smiles. Then it moved. Slowly, almost imperceptibly, it slid across the board, stopping at Y. Someone giggled, accusing another of pushing it, but the way our hands trembled on the planchette told a different story. "Who are you?" asked Jake, the bravest of us. The planchette moved again, this time faster, spelling out Notyous. We all froze. The air in the room felt heavier, pressing down on our chests. "This isn't funny," said Lily, her voice shaky. No one admitted to moving it. The candle flickered, and for a moment, the shadows on the walls seemed to dance in shapes that weren't ours. "What do you want?" Mia whispered. The planchette didn't move for a long moment. Just as we began to breathe again, it shot across the board with such force that it slipped out from under our fingers, stopping at RUN. A loud crash echoed from the kitchen. We screamed, jumping to our feet. Jake grabbed a flashlight, and we cautiously made our way toward the noise. The kitchen was empty, but the cupboard doors were all open, swinging slightly as though someone had just been there. The temperature in the room was icy, our breath visible in the beam of the flashlight. No one argued. When we returned, the Ouija board was gone. The candle had been snuffed out, and in its place was something that hadn't been there before. A single, muddy footprint on the carpet, too large to belong to any of us. Panic set in. We decided to leave the house altogether, grabbing our phones and running out into the night. We huddled together on the porch, debating what to do. Mia's house sat at the edge of the woods, and as we stood there, we heard something moving in the trees. At first, it sounded like the wind, but then came the unmistakable sound of footsteps, heavy, deliberate, and getting closer. Jake shone his flashlight toward the tree line, and for a moment, we saw nothing. Then, a figure stepped into the beam. It was tall, its limbs too long, its face obscured by the shadows. It didn't move, just stood there watching us. "Get inside," Mia hissed. We didn't need to be told twice. We bolted back into the house, locking every door and window we could find. The atmosphere inside was suffocating, the walls seeming to close in around us. We stayed together in the living room, too scared to sleep. Every now and then we'd hear faint tapping on the windows, but when we looked, there was nothing there. At some point, exhaustion took over, and we drifted into a restless sleep, huddled together like children. When morning came, the first rays of sunlight streaming through the windows, everything felt different. The house was silent, the eerie stillness of the night replaced by an almost oppressive calm. The Ouija board was back in the center of the living room, but the planchette was broken in two. None of us spoke as we packed our things and left. Mia never stayed in that house again. Her family moved out a month later, but she never told them why. As for the rest of us, we promised never to speak of that night again. But sometimes, when I'm alone and the night is quiet, I think I can still hear the faint sound of footsteps in the distance, growing closer.